Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
We're going to continue with our literature unit for the month of November. Remember, the featured book or books that we're talking about is the Ink Trilogy by Alice Broadway. And this, again, is a dystopian novel about the future in which a government is in control. But in this particular case, it has to do with tattoos. And if you need a tattoo, you need to have ink.
And remember, they're a set of 3 books. That's why we call it the trilogy. We've got Ink, Spark, and Scar. So we're kind of giving you an overview of the plot. We did on day 1. And today we're going to talk more about the author, Alice Broadway. Of course, if you have interest in this stuff, you can always look her up online. Check it out. I saw she gave a couple of interviews. You could listen to her in English and learn some more that way. I think that listening can really help improve your pronunciation, but also the way that we speak in English sentences. You need to be practicing that too, so you sound more like a native speaker, which can help you in your hunt for a good job.
Indeed. And of course, if you've got good English, you've got a good chance of getting a good job doing international trade or whatever.
Sure.
And you can make a ton of money. Now, again, we're talking about the Ink Books trilogy, and let's get to it now and continue talking about this particular series of books. Let's listen to today's article, and we'll be right back. The Ink Trilogy by Alice Broadway is a series of young adult dystopian novels. It began with Broadway's debut novel, Ink, in 2016, followed by Spark, and concluded with Scar. The inspiration for these novels emerged from Broadway's personal crisis after leaving a community where she felt bullied and manipulated. This experience deeply influenced the themes explored within the trilogy, particularly the critical view of compliance and authority in the fictional town of Saintstone. Central to the trilogy is the exploration of societal control. In Saintstone, the government employs tattoos to monitor and control its citizens, transforming personal histories into public records subject to review. The government also has the authority to assess the worth of a person's life. From a young age, residents are taught to fear the blanks. However, as Leora spends time among the blanks during her investigation, she discovers many similarities between their communities. This revelation challenges the societal truths she has been taught and leads her to question the government's integrity. Another key theme is personal growth and development. Leora initially believes the blanks are outlaws who steal the souls of Saintstone's residents. Throughout her journey, she learns that not everything is as it seems. She must challenge her leaders, her beliefs, and her own biases to discover the truth. Although her father is accused of betrayal, she discovers his true aim was to foster peace and acceptance between the two groups. Ultimately, Leora's quest reveals hidden truths and carves her path as an advocate for change. Her story inspires readers to question norms and courageously confront injustices, highlighting the power of individual voices in shaping society. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Let's talk about today's lesson. Again, this is the Ink Books trilogy, Ink, Spark, and Scar, which we'll get to in just a second. Again, it's a dystopia or a dystopian novel of the future, and it's about ink or tattoos and skin. Remember last time we talked about the fact that when people die, their tattoos are made into a book, and if they were good people, if the government liked them, then the book would be preserved forever. And if the person was not liked by the government, this person would be forgotten and they would not have a book of their tattoos.
And remember, if something's dystopian, or you're talking about a dystopia, which is a noun, a dystopian just means this imaginary world or place where everything is unpleasant. But the most important thing about this dystopian place is that it's usually ruled by totalitarians or fascists who give people no freedom. So they must do whatever they're told to do. The environment is awful. It's been destroyed and people are unhappy. And they, as Tom said in day 1, they move around like robots which doesn't sound like there's very much happiness there. She wrote this book, or the series of books, for a good reason. The inspiration, it says here, for these novels came from or emerged from her personal crisis after leaving a community. Could be a school environment, or maybe she was in a club. We don't know the community she was talking about, although it sounded like a school environment, where she felt bullied and manipulated. If you bully someone, you take your superior strength and wit or popularity, and you make someone who is weaker than you are feel horrible about themselves. It used to be when we were growing up, people got bullied by stronger guys.
Right.
We had a girl who was a bully in 5th grade who would beat up other guys and girls. And then I made friends with her, and it was okay. But nowadays, kids are bullied online. Their parents give them phones, and they're on social media far too young. And, everybody wants to have their photo liked or their comment liked. And if they're not liked, it makes them feel bad about themselves. So parents, rethink those phones. Let them experience their childhoods without being bullied. What's manipulated, though?
That means you use somebody for your own purposes and you don't really care about them. Usually friendships with people are mutual. Of course, we want friends to help us with our own needs, but then we need to help them with their needs as well.
Sure.
It's a mutual situation. But if you're only using a person for your own goods, then you are, or for your own good, you are manipulating that person. You are using that person. And she did feel that she was bullied and manipulated there. And so she probably didn't have very many sincere friends there. She probably couldn't trust a lot of people. And this experience deeply influenced the themes explored within the trilogy, particularly the critical view of compliance and authority in the fictional town of Saintstone. So this particular experience influenced her ideas for this book. And in this book, we have different themes that are explored within the trilogy. And especially or particularly, they are the critical view of compliance. If you're critical, that means you are really pointing out what's good about something and what's bad about something. You are a critic. It's usually negative. If it's a critical view, of course, you're talking about the bad parts of something. And she's saying that compliance is probably a bad thing. Compliance just refers to when people comply or do as they're told. They're all a bunch of zombies or a bunch of sheep in a flock.
Yeah, they don't think for themselves or have their own free will. They just do what other people tell them to do or what they look around and see others are doing. Think for yourself and decide whether you're going to comply, which is the verb, or not comply. But you need to stand up for things you think are right and true. Authority refers to that power or right that people have to give orders or make decisions for others and then enforce obedience. If you don't do what I say, we're going to arrest you or we're going to fine you. You have to pay money. So these things are very, very prevalent, or you can see them easily in this world she has created in her Ink trilogy, these novels that she's written. Remember, she set these things. The plot is set in a fictional town called Saintstone. If it's fictional, it's just something someone made up. It's in their own mind.
Right. So again, that's her motivation for writing these books. It's based on a personal experience. And moving on now to the next paragraph, it says, central to the trilogy, or the main part of the trilogy, the main plot, is the exploration of societal control. Now we have the word societal here. That's the adjective form of the word society, which of course is the world in which we live, the people all around us, the government, the authorities. That is society. And here we're making it into an adjective, societal control, or control of a society.
Now, in Saintstone, the government employs tattoos to monitor and control its citizens. Notice here we're using the verb employ, not to talk about giving someone a job, but it just means you're using something to achieve another purpose. So they're using tattoos to monitor, to continually watch the citizens, and then to control them through the tattoos that they make them get. And this is transforming personal histories, things that are personal or things that happen to you yourself and no one else. And sometimes you don't want to share everything that's happening in your personal life, right? Here they have no choice. Your personal history ends up going into a public record, and people can see it, review it, and decide how they feel about you. They make really, kind of harsh judgments about you.
Yeah, so maybe if you're a big boy and you're going to bully a kid after school to make yourself feel good because you're really dumb, think about that twice, because in the future, there may be a record of that. And if you try to become the company president, or if you try to run for office, that little incident where you bullied the weak kid in school, that will become known by people, and they will not vote for you, and you'll end up homeless and living under a bridge.
Although we have seen in current modern day life that if you have enough money, you can get that erased
that's
forever.
Right. It could happen, indeed.
Yeah.
You probably could figure out some way to hire a hacker to go onto the internet and erase all the information.
Google will do it for you if you have enough money. So the government also has the authority or power to assess. To assess something means to look at things and come to a judgment about something. You assess, and they're assessing the worth of a person's life. Who gives them the right to do this? Actually, because the people just kept complying, the government took control. So if you don't like what your government's doing, you better stand up and say something. Now, from a young age, when they're very, very small, a resident, remember, is a person who lives somewhere, lives in a city, a town, a countryside. They were taught to fear the blanks. Remember, the blanks are a group of people who are rebellious, and they've decided they don't want to live this way. They want to have some privacy in their lives, and they do not want to be controlled by the government. So they were thrown out of society. They were expelled. They were told, get out of here. You can't be with us. You're evil, and you don't have a conscience.
Right. Of course, the government is not going to like these radicals. So, of course, they're going to say, you need to fear them. You need to be afraid of them. And that's where we're going to leave off for the first part of our lesson for today. Here comes our Chinese teacher. Stay tuned. We'll be back.
Hello everyone, 我是派老师。今天讲解的是11月13号 Unit6 这个单元第2天的内容。在第一天课文里面，我们了解到 Leora 也就是主角，虽然一开始接受圣实证的制度信念，可是父亲死后遭受到了一连串的指控。那这些指控呢，也让我们的主角开始展开一连串的真相探索追寻。类似像这样的文学作品还有很多，他们常常都会被归类为反乌托邦。阅读完这个单元的介绍以后，大家如果觉得很有趣，可以进一步阅读印记三部曲，还有其他反乌托邦的小说，比方说赫赫有名的1984。好，那我们一起来看学习重点吧。请同学看到第一段的第一个句子，那在这里就提到这个三部曲怎么样呢？它的作者是 Alice Broadway。那这一套书是 It's a series of young adult dystopian novels。这里的 dystopian 呢，就是反乌托邦。那这样的小说有什么样的特色呢？他们通常会强调社会控制，描述集权统治，里面的人民受到严密的监控，那自由呢也受到了剥夺。极端的环境会把人性的黑暗面放大。比方说1984这本小说描绘的就是集权政府无处不在，会去监视人民，对他们洗脑，剥夺他们的思想自由。那再来呢，第二个句子是进一步的去介绍我们这一套书，它是2016年出版了，是第一部。那接着接二连三的总共有3部。请看到第3个句子，让我们知道作者他的灵感来源 inspiration for these novels。 inspiration 呢指的就是灵感。那什么时候出现的？用的动词是 emerge， 原来跟作者个人的经验有关。那过往的人生当中其实有一些危机 personal crisis。 那在这样子的环境里面，它就是 community 指的是他过去所生长的这个环境。在这个环境当中 where she felt bullied， bully 大家都知道就受到霸凌，但后面这个单字可能大家没那么熟，是 manipulate。那我们可以把它拆开来看，大家有没有觉得这个 manipulate 前面的 man 这个部分跟我们讲的 manual 手册长得很像？没有错，其实manipulate 我们把它翻成操控、操弄嘛。那手册是不是有个手？那操控是不是也是要用手去做呢？所以这是 manipulate 其实就是操控、操作的意思。好，再来请看到第四个句子。第四个句子告诉我们说，这三部曲它有一个探讨的主题是什么呢？就是 compliance 和 authority。那什么是 compliance？ 我们先从它的动词 comply C-O-M-P-L-Y 来看， comply with 加一个名词就是去遵从什么。像我们都知道，其实消防安全非常的重要，尤其是我们在出入公共场所的时候，因为公共场所出入的人非常的多，我们要特别重视这些场合的消防安全，所以这些场合都应该要遵守消防法规。Movie theaters must comply with all fire safety rules。比方说，电影院就要遵从消防法规。好，所以这个 compliance 这里呢，就 comply 的名词就顺从、遵从。那再来呢 ，authority 所指的就是权威。再来，我们看到第二段。第二段呢，请同学特别注意到，我在刚开始就已经介绍反乌托邦的小说有个特色，就是社会控制 societal control。那怎么控制呢？他们会去监控人，所以请看到第二个句子 monitor and control its citizens。那所以在这里呢，还要请同学特别注意到的就是在后面的这个 subject to review。subject to 在这里的意思是受谁支配、控制或影响的意思，或者呢以什么为条件。那比方说我们去机场要通关的时候呢，都要做这些安全检查。所有的电子设备都要接受检查，我们就可以说 All electronic devices are subject to inspection at the airport.
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. It's our Ink Books trilogy, and we're talking about a set of books, a series of books that were written by Alice Broadway. She is an author, and she wrote this as I would say her target audience was the youth of our world. So kids that are in, I think, high school, junior high school, this would appeal to them. She talked about her inspiration coming from feeling like she was bullied, and she wanted to kind of express that in a novel or a series of novels. And she has kind of developed a very interesting world. It's very dystopian. It makes you feel kind of bad about life. And the world that they live in is very harsh. There's no freedom. And they have to do exactly what the government tells them. They have no privacy. They have no freedom. And their whole lives are judged by the things that happen to them that are then tattooed into their skin.
Exactly. So again, the government can decide how you're going to be remembered. And remember, Leora was doing some investigation into her father's record, and she found out maybe he wasn't such a bad guy after all. And he did have some connections, maybe, with the blanks. So she keeps uncovering more and more information, and therefore, of course, she's going to become an enemy of the state, and she might be captured and tortured and executed. Imagine what would happen to somebody in North Korea if they started to ask questions about the Kim regime. Oh, my goodness, you would be in really big trouble. But from a young age, residents of this society are taught to fear the blanks. Okay, remember, they're the enemy, so be afraid of them. However, as Leora spends time among the blanks during her investigation, she discovers many similarities between their communities. So again, she's having contact with the blanks to get more information. As part of her investigation, I suppose the government is probably aware of these activities, and she's probably going to get in trouble as a result. But still, she's come in contact with the blanks, and she probably thinks that, hey, they're not so bad after all. Actually, we have a lot in common.
Yeah, a lot of times we're told, at least in America, to hate the opposition. Oh, you don't like those people. They're bad. But you know what? Sometimes you get to know them and you're like, what are they talking about? These are nice people. So we just need to ignore those that are trying to separate us and make us hate each other and get to know each other on a personal level, that we have a lot of things in common. And most people have a lot of good in them, of course. So she does see some similarities between her community and, of course, the blanks who are said to be evil and they don't have a conscience. So this revelation, or this piece of surprising information, that's what a revelation here means, challenges the societal truths, the truths that she's been indoctrinated or brainwashed into believing from the time she was a child. And this leads her to start questioning the government's integrity. If you're talking about someone's integrity, it's the quality of their honesty. Are they honest people? Do they have strong moral principles? Do they do what they say they do? Do they do what's right according to what is considered moral and upright? So integrity is very important, especially when you're talking about the integrity of people close around you and also the government, because we were taught to believe the government was here to help us, to protect us, but not always.
That's right. It's supposed to be the government for the people, by the people, and of the people. But of course, sometimes that doesn't work out. And now into the next paragraph, it says, another key theme is personal growth and development. Remember, Leora is only 16 years old. So, of course, she's learning things. Maybe it's a coming of age story in a sense where she's growing personally. And she develops into a human being. She becomes an adult. She finds out some truths about herself, and she goes through a great change. That's a common theme in stories where somebody is changed as the story continues. And Leora initially, or at the beginning, believes the blanks are outlaws who steal the souls of St. Stone's residents. So that's what she has been taught. At least at first, she thought that the blanks are criminals. They are outlaws. They're bad people. And they only do bad things like stealing the souls of the residents of St. Stone, and that's no good.
Ooh, that's bad. I notice here they're using the word outlaw. We use outlaw to talk about the criminals in old Western films. We don't use it so much anymore. I go to a bank and I use the ATM, and they always have that warning screen that says, beware of the gangsters who might be behind you. We don't use that word either, guys, to talk about criminals. Just use the word criminals, people who are doing things that are illegal or breaking the law. Gangsters belong in a group called a mob or a mafia group. We use criminals just to talk about people who are, bad. They're not obeying the law and they're maybe doing really bad things. So, she was taught to believe that the blanks would steal the souls of St. Stone's residents. That sounds terrible. Throughout her journey of discovery, I think we could say she's actually discovering things. She's not traveling from one place to another. She learns that not everything is as it seems. Always question what you're hearing and you're seeing, especially nowadays where we have AI videos that can be produced, which can convince you something's true and it's not. So she must challenge her leaders, her beliefs, her own beliefs, and her own biases to discover the truth. A bias is a belief that you have that something is considered a certain way. Maybe it was the way you were raised. You have a bias against the South. Maybe you think the North is superior. It's a better place to live in the northern part of Taiwan, not the southern part. That's a bias that you have. This is the plural form. I wanted to mention, sometimes you'll hear, especially academics or professors, pronounce this plural form as biases. They're both correct, but you can just say biases. It's just great.
Right. So you have a belief in something, but you're biased. Okay. You already support that position. If you think the north of Taiwan is better than the south, Well, you have a bias because you're from the North. You think it's a great place because you're from there, so you're biased. You're not objective. And yes, she has to overcome her own biases to discover the truth. Okay, she has to remember what she's been taught before and whether or not it was just lies or if it was just her being brainwashed. And although her father is accused of betrayal, she discovers his true aim was to foster peace and acceptance between the two groups. So yes, initially, the government accused him of betrayal. A betrayal is when you betray somebody. You're supposed to be loyal to somebody, but you work with the enemy, so that's betraying your own country. Betrayal could be in a relationship, of course. If you're married and you have an affair with somebody else, you could be accused of betrayal. You have betrayed your wife or you have betrayed your husband or whatever. And yes, he is accused of being an enemy of the state, of not being loyal to the state. But she discovers that, no, actually what he was trying to do was foster peace and acceptance between the two groups. And to foster just means to bring something about, to make it happen.
So ultimately, or finally at the end, Leora's quest or her journey to find something out reveals hidden truths and carves her path as an advocate for change. It makes her want to change society to make sure that the truth gets told instead of people constantly believing lies. If you're an advocate, you're a person who publicly supports a particular cause, usually a cause for a change in society. And her story inspires readers to question norms. A norm is just things that people usually do as a habit. And courageously, she has a lot of courage, confront injustices, things that aren't fair are injustices. And this highlights the power of individual voices in shaping society. So be courageous. If you have courageous, you're not afraid of people. You're not put off or deterred by danger or maybe even harm that could come to you. You do the right thing no matter what.
Exactly. So hopefully she can bring about change in the society. You'll have to read these books yourself, though, to find out what happens. And that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Let's listen now to our Chinese teacher.
好，第二段呢，还有一个句子，我们看一下第6个句子，最后一个句子，请看到最后一个字，这里呢就是 integrity。那 integrity 呢，我们可以用来形容人，在人的时候呢，我们讲的就是正直 ，a man of integrity， 那就是正直的人 ，a politician of integrity。那如果呢，政治人物有这样的特质，那我们就会说是正直的政治人物嘛。好，那在这里讲政府的时候，就表示什么呢？表示这个政府呢是有诚信的。好，再来我们看到第3段。第3段呢，这里就介绍了这部小说这3部曲呢，有另外一个主题，就是讲主人公他的 personal growth， 他的成长，还有他呢人格的发展 development。那再来第2个句子，要请同学注意的就是，好，我们前面提到了这个社会里面呢，不愿意接受刺青的人呢，那他们被排挤，我们把他们称为空白人。那在这里头小说里面好像大家都会被洗脑，认定这些人就是 outlaws， 他们呢就是不法之徒。outlaws 这个字呢，请同学可以特别注意，那常常我们都会说这些就是罪犯的意思。好，再来请同学看到第5个句子。第5个句子不定词后面有一个很重要的单字 to foster peace and acceptance between the two groups。 那原来主人公的爸爸呢，他被人指控背叛，可是其实爸爸是有一个真正的目的，希望呢促进空白人和原本的社会这2个不同群体之间的和平，还有彼此接纳。这个 foster 我们就可以把它翻译成培养、促进的意思。好，第4段我们看一个单字就好，就是 Leora's quest。quest 呢，我们有时候会说这是旅程，但通常呢这一种旅程，它其实比较好的说法是探索、追寻，而且通常都会比较艰困，有一些挑战。那我们也知道说主人公历经了很长很艰辛的历程，所以我们把它称为 quest。 好，以上就是我们针对这个单元第2天的课文内容所做的中文讲解。 See you next time。That's
all for today, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and make sure you check out our content on YouTube and Facebook. It will help you with your listening your English listening comprehension ability, and hopefully you're inspired yourself to go out and read the Ink trilogy. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Okay, that brings us to the end of our program. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Happy reading.